Hey everyone, welcome to A Mess Nonetheless. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Melissa, and we are sisters.
Yes, this
Hi.
time it's not a surprise. Last week
No.
she was like, I don't think that's a surprise to people.
I was trying to motivate myself because I feel very sluggish because I've not been feeling good. And I was like, if I say it really excitedly, that'll start my podcast off with a bang in my head. I don't know.
I gosh. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we did an episode on body image a while ago, a couple months ago, and we got really positive feedback. It was definitely one of our top listens.
Mhm.
And we had women say, we'd like you to cover more topics regarding body image and like maybe food issues and things like that. So we asked which kind of issues specifically. And so today we are going to talk about body image when we compare ourselves to our former bodies.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know. And I know this is really important because if you are a woman, I'm not saying men can't feel this way, but I know we have far less men listening, but especially women, I think you could probably look at any, like one time in your life, pick any season and you were comparing yourself to a different season.
Yep.
I mean, high school, you're comparing yourself to middle school. College, you're comparing yourself to high school. Early married years, you're comparing yourself to college. Like in your 40s, you're comparing yourself to your 30s. Like from one pregnancy, you're comparing yourself to photos from another pregnancy. I mean, it is constant.
Yeah.
Obviously, Melissa agrees. And I honestly think most of you listening are probably going, yeah, that is true. And I have seen some like motivational, inspirational things regarding like body image issues saying basically like, do you want to get to 90 and go, I'm so glad I spent all of those years wishing for a different body or hating my body, not appreciating my body? Like, who gets to 90 and is like, I'm so glad I
was
spent
such
all
a good use of my time.
Exactly. Nobody. And I actually had a situation once where I was still knee deep in like disordered eating and not seeing my body for what it was. I will call it body dysmorphia, though I was not diagnosed with that. But as soon as I started realizing like I do not see my body the way it is, I recognized how much I struggled with this body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
Again, I was not diagnosed. But
I believe you would have been.
I believe I probably would have been too. Now the only reason I might not have is I'm not sure you can technically move out of body dysmorphia. Like I'm not sure if you have either way, but I had a very morphed idea of my body. And I can see that now looking back on times I felt so fat. I was like, oh my gosh, I almost look sick and not even at my skinniest, like 15 pounds over my skinniest. I'm like, whoa, I look so thin. Like, it's just, it's devastating a little bit to recognize. But anyways, so I was knee deep in that and had not even really remotely started seeing I had a problem. And I was at a restaurant on a patio and there was this group of like 6 women and they were all probably in their early 70s, maybe late 60s, but they were definitely like older women than me. And the one woman, it was her birthday and she was super tiny and trim. And a lot of women, that's just the way they are. They're just built that way and they might be that way their whole life. But then this woman, dessert came out and everyone sang to her. And then they had ordered like a couple. And I heard someone say, are you going to eat any? And she goes, oh, I haven't eaten dessert in 30 years. I'm not going to start now. Yeah. And I didn't even recognize my own problem. And I felt so sad that this woman had not eaten dessert for 30 years. And that it was probably contributed to why she was so tiny and trim, right? Like it probably, I mean, when you see a really tiny woman and she's just mowing down on, chips and salsa and burgers and fries, and you go, okay, that's probably just the way you were made.
Yeah.
But when you hear a woman go, oh, no, I'm 70 and I have not eaten dessert in 30 years. I'm not going to start now. It's probably connected.
Right.
And I remember thinking, is that really how I want to live my life? Like, I just haven't had that. And so, I mean, there are things it's okay to give up on, and dessert is one of them, but I think it's all about
for the right
motivation.
reasons.
Exactly. It's all about our motivation. So I think most women would admit, yes, every season I've always wished for a different season of my body. I think most women would admit that they don't want to get to 70, 80 or 90 and look back and be that I think they would have regrets. Like, why did I spend all that time?
Yeah.
And yet I think most women are sitting right where they are, not thinking about how could I do things differently today? Would you agree with that?
You're meaning, how can I change my thought process today.
Right. Like
Not
most
how can
women.
I do something different to change my body.
Oh, right,
I
right,
just
right.
want to
My thought
clarify that.
process. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So most women are probably would agree with everything I've
Yes.
said, but they aren't doing anything about it
They're
today
not
in their
actively
mind.
trying to change their mindset.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we are not going to talk about changing our bodies at all on this episode.
No.
So if I say changing yourself, what I mean is your mindset.
Yes. I
I
just wanted that
appreciate.
clarified.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad you clarified that. That is not what we're going to be talking about.
Mhm.
Melissa and I have decided we don't even know how to change our bodies anymore.
It's true.
Hormonally, we're like not
It's
even
true.
sure anything
Yeah.
works anymore. And
Yeah.
other than the most extreme
Yeah.
measures, which
And I
we
ain't going there.
yeah,
I
we're
have
just
no
not,
interest.
we're not, we've decided for me, I know it is unhealthy for me.
Right.
Like I was actually praying about today and I was like, gosh, I really would love to lose like 10 pounds and fit into a lot of my clothes.
Mm-hmm.
But also I was like, I really don't, I was like, Lord, I don't even know what could ever be healthy for me again. Like I cannot put myself in a position where I am counting things and
Right.
it's just so unhealthy for me. And
Right.
so,
if you guys haven't heard our other episode on body image, I highly recommend you go listen to it. Rachel's really forthcoming with, because if you're not aware that she's in, in recovery from an eating disorder and things like that, that you might not realize that. And it's really good to listen to. And so,
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And we talked with CJ, Melissa's best
Yep.
friend. And she's also in recovery from an eating disorder. Yep. And yeah, we all learned to appreciate and respect and honor our bodies
Mhm.
that are
As
heaviest.
is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not just as is, at our heaviest.
Correct. Yes.
All three of us.
Mhm.
So, and for me, that
And
was
we're not talking
15
about
pounds
heaviest,
ago.
like like you are, the doctor's like, your heart is going to be in trouble if you don't lose weight. We're
Right.
talking about just really normal, like weight, like really normal. Just, this is kind of what happens when you get to a certain age, and it's hard, unless, like Rachel said, unless if you're overly actively doing things to the extreme, sometimes, just your body doesn't budge. And so,
yeah, because we are not your doctor, and we are not going to say, if you have 200 pounds to lose to be a healthy person,
right,
you shouldn't do that.
Right.
That is between you, God, and your doctor.
Yeah.
What we are talking about is people who are just in general pretty healthy and still don't appreciate their body. They're always looking back to a former body. So
yes, exactly.
Melissa and I both definitely know what that is. I mean, there were very, very few seasons in my life where I just genuinely appreciated my body where it was.
Correct.
But then I couldn't maintain that.
Yeah.
And when I couldn't, then that's what I compared everything to.
Right.
And my downfall was, I actually was like pretty, I would say I had like, how do you want to say this? Like a little extra fluff on me most of my adult years. And then in my mid 30s, I got really thin.
Sure. Okay.
Actually, in my early 30s, I went through postpartum depression and I got really thin.
Really,
and
really,
then
really skinny.
Yep. And then I gained some healthy weight back. And then I actually had to like take time hop off my phone or any sort of memories. I couldn't look at any photos for years because it was, I just wanted to be as thin as I was, even though I knew I was so unhealthy in my mind. And at that season, the reason I got so thin is I was eating like 400 calories a day, not to be thin, because I was so depressed. That's all. I couldn't force myself to eat even barely that.
And she looked terrible, you guys. I mean, she looked sunken in. Like it wasn't like, oh, look at how nice and thin she looked. I mean, it was scary kind of to look at her. And so for her to compare herself to this really unhealthy stage is, I just feel like that's necessary to get that image in your mind.
Right. So then fast forward a few years, another pregnancy, and I got to that same weight, but this time I was not sunken in. Don't get me wrong. I was still really, really thin, but I had muscles and I had definition, and muscle does way more than fat. So it's like, I probably, if I didn't have all that muscle, probably would have weighed even less. So I was really, really thin. And then, I mean, every 3 pounds over that, and then the 3 more, it was like, I was just obsessed with that.
Devastating.
Weight.
Yeah.
Yes. And I lived a good decade of my life, basically not just being like, oh, I wish I looked like that again. Literally, like that was everything to
your
me.
goal.
It was my every waking thought. I'd wake up and go, what am I going to do today to attain that goal? And then I would berate myself at night for not having attained that goal. And that's where my problems, came, was comparing myself. And it's funny, I don't weigh myself very often, but I always know what I weigh. And I have not weighed myself in a long time. But I did see my weight at the doctor probably 6 months ago. And I was like, I'm just gonna step on the scale and weigh myself. I think I weigh about 3 pounds more than that. And I like exactly did. And it was funny because I was looking at that and I was like, other than pregnancy and like postpartum, like, you know, those first few months, this is literally the heaviest I have ever weighed, including um when after I'd had Brighton, my 14-year-old, and I was like, huh, that's interesting because if you looked at my body then compared to
Mhm.
now, I look significantly better.
Oh,
And
yeah, now.
yeah, because I work
Mhm,
out and I'm healthy. And so,
mhm,
and I looked in the mirror at this weight with this number in my head and I sat and praised myself. Like,
mhm.
your legs are sure they're a little thick for like how they used to be, but like, but they're muscular. Like
Yeah.
your stomach could be flatter, but also it could be fatter. It's like my shoulders are not the defined what I want, but they're strong because I had surgery and I'm
Mhm.
getting my strength back. And I just stood there and I just admired things about my body right where it was.
Yeah,
And I did not berate myself for that weight. And I probably won't weigh myself again for months. Like it was not
yeah.
like a thing I do regularly. And I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. I'm just saying for me,
For you, yeah.
not something that's healthy for me to know regularly. But it was like such a positive experience for me to be like, wow, I am literally the heaviest I have been in 15 years.
Mhm.
And yet I have so many good things I could say about my body. And I did.
Yeah,
And I chose
yeah.
to thank God for so many things about my body. And go ahead.
I really want people hearing her to know that she didn't just wake up one morning and was like, "I'm gonna praise my body." I mean, it
Right.
has been a solid year of
Hmm.
day in and day out
Yep.
work and effort of laying
Hmm.
down the lies, grabbing onto truths. Like,
Hmm.
this has not been an easy process,
No.
and I'm saying that because if you're like, "Oh, why can't I just do that? Why can't I just look in the mirror?"
Right.
And, like, it's because she made a choice that
Hmm.
got her here. It didn't
Yeah.
happen overnight. She
Yep.
made a choice that one day at a time. First, she admitted that she had a problem. Like, that was huge to admit that you had an eating disorder and realize she admitted how unhealthy her thoughts were. And not just to herself, but even to some people and because when we talk to other people, it just makes it more real. Like, the enemy
Hmm. It's true.
he can't use it to mess with us when we get it out there, and I like to
Hmm.
say bring it to the light, because it's not in the dark anymore. And so I just really want you guys to know that it is, but has it been worth the work? I mean, she
Oh
is
my
freer than I've
gosh.
ever seen her in our
In
life. And
every area of my life, all
Mhm.
because I woke up one day and was like, I can't be this way anymore. And
Yep.
honestly, you were the reason, like God totally used you to get me to this place because I was like, no, I don't have an eating disorder. I'm so glad I
Mhm.
don't. Like I've thought that.
Mhm.
And then it was like, well, let me just Google.
Because I
Just
said, I think you have an eating disorder.
she did. And
Mhm.
I wasn't like mad that you said it or prideful.
No.
I was just like, no, I really don't think so.
Mhm.
And then I Googled it and was like, son of a bee, I totally do. And I took like 3 tests, like any
Mhm.
online tests I could find, and I was like, "Oh my gosh," I'm like through the charts, and then
Mhm.
that led to the whole body dysmorphia thing and
Yeah.
so much work to get here, but, like, the fact that I could stand on the scale and see the highest number I've seen in 15 years and stand in front of the mirror and not struggle to praise my body and
Mhm.
admire it and thank God for it is absolutely the freedom that every single woman and man can have. I know it because I
Yeah.
think I was more bound up than even your average
Oh,
person.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's been as her
Because
sister
most
who
women
loves her.
struggle
Yeah.
with their image, but like I was the most. I
Yeah.
mean, seriously, go
It's
ahead.
been painful to watch. I mean, in fact, my husband just asked me yesterday. He said, "Rachel seems so good. She seems so healthy. Like, what has happened?" And I mean, he knows some of what's happened over the last year. And I was like, I know. I'm like, she has just broken free from, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, she looks amazing." Like, because we saw like how it wrapped around you and just was
Mhm.
strangling you, and we
Yeah.
couldn't do anything about it. I mean, it's hard to watch. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, I believe that because I look back
Mhm.
and I'm like, "Oh, this is not fun to sort through like 10
Right.
years."
Yeah.
And so I have a picture when we were on a vacation here in Arizona once. Melissa was with me and it was a group of us and I just was standing there with my arms around people at the pool. I wasn't modeling or like standing in a certain position and I mean I looked phenomenal. Like you could see my six pack, like my legs were so muscular. There was no fat on my body. There obviously was fat, but none that I could
Mhm.
visibly see. And that I would like use that image as like that's my goal.
Yeah.
Anytime I'd be 5 pounds over that, 8 pounds over that, that'd be my goal. Get back to that, get back to that. And recently I took a picture of me in a swimsuit, just, in the mirror, just here I am. I'm not standing in any certain position again. And I got the high waisted and, whatever. I looked great. Like I looked adorable, but I certainly didn't look like I did. And I put them in pictures side by side and was like, this is 30 pounds difference. And I'm looking at it and I no longer go, gosh, I just want to be that girl on the left. I look at the girl on the right and go, man, she looks so happy.
Yeah.
She's so free. Like, is she 30 pounds heavier? Yeah. But
Mm-hmm.
like, this is now my new goal is to not be 30 pounds heavier, but to love her no matter where she is.
Yeah.
Love her on the right, love her on the left.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's a totally different kind of a before and after. Cause I used to always post before and afters when I was a Beachbody coach. And it was to show people, look, I can shred this fat. You can shred this fat. And the thing is I don't think there's anything wrong with shredding fat. And I mean, I work out 5-6 days a week and I eat salads on purpose. I eat vegetables, I eat healthy things because I like to.
You want to take care of your body.
I want to take care of my body. And so I don't think, if you're eating a lot of fried foods and you're eating a lot of fast food, I think you should and can make a lot of changes for the good of loving your body. I don't think there's anything wrong with starting to work out and nothing. I don't think there's wrong with even sharing, look, I've lost 30 pounds. Here's a before and after.
Right.
I don't want anyone to think
it's all about your mindset and your motivation behind it.
And my motivation was I need to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I never was. Like, even when I looked perfect, I still could have pulled pockets and been like, but there's fat here and there's.
She was always, and it was so painful to watch because I was like, okay, like it's like the size of my pinky fingernail. I was like, I don't know how to respond to that because I don't see any, like I don't understand what you're picking apart. And
and I totally did. And I went to a hotel this weekend with a friend. We were celebrating our 40th birthdays, and there was this woman there. She's a couple years older than Melissa, so she's like maybe 6-7 years older than me. And she walked in. I mean, she was beautiful. She had a 6-pack, like just walking. She's almost 50 years old. She looked phenomenal, and we started talking. And over the next couple of days, we ended up talking to her a lot. And she would mention things like, oh, fruit. Yeah. Like, I just don't want to spend my carbs and my sugar there. And like, oh, carrots have a lot of carbs in them, or a lot of sugar, carrots and corn. I really avoid them. And I was like, oh my gosh, this was me. This was me. And she was like, I work out like 3 hours a day. And what, for an inch, I lose off my waist. Cause she's getting to that age where like now not helping as much. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like she was not perfect. She could have showed me her areas of like concern, so to speak. And I would have acknowledged, sure, I can see these tiny little areas why a person might go, I want to tone that up. Right. But she looked perfect. Like, she looked absolutely perfect. And I was so proud of myself because I felt sad for her and not jealous of her.
Yeah.
And on top of it, I was in a 2-piece, which I wasn't sure I should be wearing anymore. I was like, don't get me wrong, everyone should wear a 2-piece. But I was like, I think I might need bigger bottoms and bigger tops.
Oh, right? I see what you're saying. Like that specific one.
This specific one.
I was like, I don't even understand what you're saying.
No. Like, I was like, I think maybe I need to
time to retire that specific
time to
one.
retire that swimsuit. Yep. Sorry, to be clear. And I just was like, well, here I am. And I actually went in the bathroom at one point to go to the bathroom and took a picture of me in my swimsuit and sent it to my husband and said, I am celebrating the fact that I can see this is a good body, even though this woman out there has everything I used to have.
Yeah.
And she's not happy with it. And I'm happy with mine.
Yes, exactly.
And he was like, I'm so happy. And you're smoking, whatever.
Yeah.
And so go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, I want to share my story, but I thought you were done. So finish what you were going to say.
I could talk about this for 4 hours and we don't have that. So please, please step in, cut me off.
So both Rachel and I have worked a lot to get to a place where we are confident in our body. And my story is different. I never had that body. Like, I've been fit and thin before, but I've never been obsessed with it quite the way Rachel has. And I also have never ever had the body that I wanted. Like, I'm short and stocky and like curvy, and I've always wanted to be tall and lean, and so like but for me, so I talked about that my adrenals have just been really kind of trashed over the last couple of years. So they've been kind of going downhill for probably 5 years. But then I got COVID and it like knocked me over the edge and like everything just kind of fell apart. And so I spent a solid year just existing, like basically not I felt like I didn't even exist.
You barely
and then
did.
this past year, I got in touch with a hormone doctor and I'm on some supplements and in a much better place, still not fully recovered, but in a much better place. as far as just the way my body is functioning. But with that came a lot of weight gain. Like I weigh more than I did even in my pregnancies. And so like that was a hard pill to swallow. And it's like, no matter what I would do, I could not lose any weight. Plus with what was going on in my body, I was super inflamed for a while, which is a terrible, it's puffy. And I mean, I felt so uncomfortable in my skin. I didn't want to stay there. I didn't want to be okay with that place because I didn't even look like myself anymore. And so thankfully the supplements have helped. A lot of the puffiness has gone away. I mean, I still am a big girl, so obviously there's still some of that, but it's that part has gotten better. And so
I
what are you
am a
laughing at?
big girl.
I
got big arms. When
Rachel
we take
always
selfies,
calls for long arms, big arms.
I'm always like, I'll take it. I got big arms. And so everyone's always like, where are your big arms? We got to take a selfie.
Exactly.
They're not small, but
yeah. So for me, the process has been a little tricky because part of me was like, I'm not okay with where I'm at, but it's more than weight. It was because my whole body just wasn't even functioning well anymore. Right. And so this past year, I really haven't lost. I I was really hopeful that I would take these supplements and I would lose 30 or 40 pounds. Like, and I haven't lost a single pound, but I eat well and I'm not like, I don't eat dessert. Like I could totally go 30 years without eating dessert, but it's just cause I don't care for it. It's not at all. There's no other reason. I would much rather have an extra glass of wine than dessert. So it's not that I'm saying, it's not that I'm counting my calories, that I'm just using them in a different place.
And mom and I will take the extra wine and the extra dessert.
Exactly.
Yours and ours.
And so, and I love to work out. I've always loved to work out. But what I have worked on this past year is realizing that, okay, so even though my adrenals aren't fully healed, they're in a much better place. My whole body is functioning better and my body still isn't losing weight. And I'm not willing to go to extremes. I'm not going to do some crazy diet. I want a lifestyle of eating. And so I will only do what I know I will do for a long time.
Right.
And which means that I'm working at so I don't eat a lot during the day because I'm not ever very hungry, but then I eat at night because I get hungry at night. So I'm working on eating throughout the day, even if I'm not hungry, because then it helps fill me up. So then I don't eat up in the evening because obviously that's the worst time to eat is right before you go to bed.
Right.
And so I've been doing some things like that, but I'm doing it not even to try to lose weight. My mindset at this point isn't even to try to lose weight. It's just because I want to be healthy. I want to, I want to function at my best. And I used to be really good at yoga. Like I could do some pretty impressive poses and I can't do those anymore, both physically, like I'm not strong enough and I'm also just not even flexible enough anymore. And it's taken me a long time to be able to practice yoga without comparing myself to what I used to be able to do. So then it was feeding on the regular. And this last couple months, I have finally really just kind of straightened my mind into a place where I'm like, I am just going to take care of myself. And so if I lose some weight, great, but that is not my goal. My goal is to take care of my body so that as I get older and have more grandkids and things like that, that I can play with them and run around with them and do things with them without being exhausted. And so, I've started practicing yoga again. And I was like, I'm just going to start at the basics and I'm going to start at like 15 minutes. And as I get stronger, I will increase that. And I'm not going to care about what I used to do because I might never get back there because
sorry, I didn't mean to
go ahead.
I've actually done the same thing because I've had so many surgeries and then I have to start all over. And it's like, I can't focus on what I used to be able to do. I can just start with where I am today.
Yeah. Because it's really defeating focusing on what you used to be able to do. And, this is something I've been doing for a long time is paying attention to other women that are just confident. That is what I want. That's who I want to be. And I tell you that the more women who walk around confident are not even the smallest ones. Like they're often like a size 12 to 16, like just kind of that middle range of sizes, but they just own their body and they own the clothes, like they wear their clothes. And I'm like, that is who I want to be. Because I would rather be confident in this size than thinner and not confident. Like, you know what I mean? And so that's my goal. And I removed the word, I think I talked about this on the other, I removed the word skinny from my vocabulary about myself because I'm not a skinny girl. Like I've never been a skinny girl, even when I was at my smallest, because I am curvy and I am thick. Like I always have had thick legs. I've always had a big butt, and so when my goal was to be skinny in an outfit, I was always disappointed because I never looked skinny. Like I can look great, but I'm not skinny. And so removing that word thin or skinny for me has been huge because instead I'm like, okay, well, I do have like I have a curvy waist, even though I have a thicker stomach, I have a curvy waist. And so I'm like, I've started wearing clothes that show off my waist, even though that means then you see some of my, like, I'm not hiding my stomach. I mean, I'm not wearing bare skin. I'm 45. I'm just saying I'm wearing clothes that don't hide my body,
Yeah. Mhm.
and I was able to start doing that when my goal was to stop looking as thin as possible in an
Yeah.
outfit.
Well, one
And
of my good
so,
friends one time, she would always wear a one piece that she felt like would hide her body, and then finally just decided to start wearing like a, two piece, cute high
mhm,
waisted or whatever.
yep,
And she was like, I've just decided everyone can see my body no matter what I'm wearing. They
right.
know what I look like. I just feel
Hmm.
like I'm hiding it, but everyone can see my body. So I might as well wear the swimsuit that I really like.
Exactly.
And I loved that. Well, and I think for me, when I realized I had all of these issues with not just my body, but food, though we're not talking about food specifically today, I realized I was like, this must be so grievous to God.
Hmm.
This is so unholy.
Hmm.
I am sinning constantly by being so self focused and so consumed with myself. And like Philippians 4:8 tells us to think
Hmm.
about everything that is good, that is pure, that is lovely. And I
Hmm.
was literally just tearing down
Yeah.
this good thing that God had given me, my own body, and
Right.
never was grateful for it. I felt entitled to more and I focused on how do I get there. And when I first realized, when Melissa first said to me, Rachel, I think you have an eating disorder. And I did realize within that afternoon, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I do.
Yeah.
I spent the next few weeks like covered in shame because I
Yeah.
was in grief because I was
Yeah.
so sad that I had spent so many years so inward focused. And I was like, how can I ever be good news to other people? How could
Hmm.
God ever fully use me with the gifts that He's given me when I am so consumed with myself?
Yeah.
And so I'd really like, maybe Melissa, you talked about this on the episode about feeling sorry for yourself. Like when you're so focused on feeling sorry for yourself, you can't even use the gifts that God's given you.
Right.
And I
You don't even
really,
recognize them.
exactly, I really encourage you, if any of this resonates with you, you might not be as bad as I have been, but if
Hmm.
any of this resonates with you, ask yourself, is this honoring to God? The way that I view my body, how often I think about my body, the way that I think about my body, the way I talk to my body, or talk about my body
Hmm.
to other people and in my head. Um, because I have a feeling your answer is going to be no. This is not honoring to God. It's
Yeah.
not honoring to the gift that this body is, and it's not holy, and that
Yeah.
there's actually quite a bit of sin covered up in it. Now, sitting in shame is not healthy, and I had to move out of there.
You're right.
Shame is not from the Lord, but like I fully believe I was grieving the Holy Spirit. In Ephesians 4:30, it says, "Do not grieve the Holy Spirit." Like with our choices, like
Yeah.
don't grieve. Like if our mindset is grieving the Holy Spirit,
Hmm.
like we got to move out of that.
Yeah.
And, I think for you, yours was different than mine, not
Hmm.
nearly as extensive as mine. But it's all the same.
Right.
I might have been worse, but it's still
Yeah.
sin. Like I might have
Right.
just done it more often in the day
Yeah.
or, berated myself with more words or
Yeah.
whatever, gone to more extremes. But at the end of the day, if we're just focusing on, I wish, I wish, I wish I had that, we are
Right.
not grateful for what we have today. And we
Yep.
are not honoring what we have today.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a daily process. I mean, it's not like, because for me, the thing that I've had to work through is that I didn't even, I don't live in a body that looks like it ever has. Like, like my face is different, like my neck is different, like I have, and so that would catch me off guard. Like I would actually feel good in an outfit or whatever. And then I would see myself in a picture and I'd be
Yeah.
like, that's not what I look like. Like, that's not
Mhm.
me. And so that has been, and it's gotten better. Like I said, especially since a lot of my inflammation has gone down. And, but so part of me has just been learning to accept that I have a different look than I
Mhm.
used to. Like, I don't know that anyone else would notice. Like, I don't know that anyone else around me is like, yeah, you look different. I know they did for a while, like when I was really in my puffy stage, like before I started taking my supplements. But
Yeah, you
I,
really didn't look like
I,
yourself then.
no, I didn't. And I know, I recognize I look a lot more like myself than I did.
Yeah.
But so, it's not even just about, oh, I wish I looked different. It's more just like, oh, I don't even reckon. And I don't reckon myself sometimes. And it makes me sad all the years that I
Mm.
didn't just appreciate the way I look, like,
Right. Yeah.
because I can look back and on all the years and be like, I look great. Like I
Right.
had nothing to be
Mhm.
focused on or wanting to look different.
Well, and we could each gain 50 pounds this next year, and then we're going to wish we looked like we did now.
Right.
We might
Exactly.
as
And
well
let's
appreciate what we have now
hope
while
that
we
doesn't
have it.
happen.
I hope not too. My gosh. For all of us, I hope not. But
Right. No, it's just, it is I mean, I feel like we just are always going back to mindset, and it
yep.
is really a
Yep.
purposeful decision. I had to purposely decide that I wear two-piece half the time. Like I have a teenager creeping through the kitchen like this going, sorry if you didn't see me. He's like,
That's so
looks
funny.
like the Grinch tiptoeing and telling me to
so
shh.
funny.
Like, or he's going shh to me.
Um,
Anyways,
So we need
got
to
distracted.
wrap up with a challenge, but I want to say Melissa and I are always coming back to this. Ask God. And in Jeremiah 33:3, it says, call to me and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. That day when I had that wake up call, which was about a year ago, I asked God, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want this. Free me from these issues, from my ridiculously sick mindset. And he answered me, and he has told me great and unsearchable things. He has given me freedom I could never have dreamt I even needed, let alone could have. And so ask God today. That's my challenge to you, is ask God, where do I need to change in my mindset towards my body? What is unholy? And where am I sinning? And I need to repent. And repent means you acknowledge it, but you turn away from it.
Make different decisions.
Exactly.
With your thoughts.
So,
yeah, exactly.
All right. Anything else, miss? I gotta
No.
go. I got someone coming to my house in 4 minutes to draw my blood.
Here we go. I thought you had to cancel. No.
Oh yeah. She texted back and said she still wants you to do a blood draw.
So yes, the last one that we recorded, which was 30 minutes before this one.
Correct.
We go back to back. She forgot that she was supposed to be fasting and she ate breakfast. And so
I was like, oh, dang it.
Yeah.
And I had a wee bit of coffee as well, just a tiny bit.
Of coffee. Yes.
So ask God where you are not honoring the body you have been given.
Yep.
Ask him where your mindset is not holy and where you need to repent from sin.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for joining us, you guys. Have a great day.
Guys.
You might feel that your life is a mess, but don't feel bad. Ours is too, but we own a microphone and we have no shame. That's why we'll talk about how our life is a mess nonetheless. That's the name of our podcast.